May 19th, 1845, Greenhithe, England. The HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror set sail from the Thames. 129 officers and men. The most advanced expedition the British Royal Navy had ever launched. Their mission: find the Northwest Passage through the Canadian Arctic.
The Erebus and Terror were not ordinary ships. They had been to Antarctica. Their hulls were reinforced with iron plating. They had steam engines salvaged from London locomotives, 2 years of provisions, 16-mile-range steam tenders. They were the most over-engineered exploration ships ever built. They carried 20,000 cans of food, 8,000 gallons of fresh water, a library of 1,500 books, china dishes for officers, a hand-cranked organ for sailing songs. They expected to be gone 3 years. They expected glory. Sir John Franklin was 59 years old. He had led 2 previous Arctic expeditions. He was knighted. His wife, Lady Jane Franklin, was perhaps the most famous woman in Victorian England. He was the safe choice, the reliable choice. The expedition was last seen by Europeans on July 26, 1845, by the whaling ship Prince of Wales in Baffin Bay. They were waiting for ice to clear. They waved across the water. The whalers waved back. Then the Erebus and Terror sailed northwest into the Lancaster Sound. 3 years passed, then 4, then 5. By 1848, no contact. The British Admiralty was not concerned. 3-year provisioning, capable men, probably wintering further north than expected. They ordered no rescue. By 1849, Lady Jane Franklin had begun to use her own money to fund private rescue expeditions. By 1850, the British Royal Navy admitted concern and launched its first government rescue mission. By 1854, after 30 separate rescue attempts, no clear evidence of either ship had been found. Then, in 1854, a Hudson's Bay Company surveyor named John Ray returned with news that shocked Victorian England. He had spoken with a group of Inuit hunters at Pelly Bay. They told him they had seen the white men. The Inuit account was specific. About 40 white men had been seen 4 years earlier, dragging a wooden boat across the ice south of King William Island. They were starving. They had bones in their cooking pots. The bones were human. Ray brought back artifacts the Inuit had given him: a silver fork from the Erebus officers' mess, a medal that belonged to Captain Crozier of the Terror, pages of a Bible, a British naval officer's epaulet. Lady Jane Franklin called him a liar. Charles Dickens wrote articles defending the Royal Navy and dismissing the Inuit account as primitive, savage misunderstanding. Lady Franklin funded another expedition, the Fox, 1857, captained by Francis McClintock. McClintock found a stone cairn on King William Island. Inside the cairn was a single document, the Victory Point Note. The note had been written in 2 parts. The first, dated May 28, 1847, said, quote, "All well." The second, written in the margins by a different hand and dated April 25, 1848, said, "Sir John Franklin died on the 11th of June, 1847. Total deaths to date, 9 officers and 15 men. Both ships abandoned." The remaining 105 men had abandoned the ships in the ice. They had attempted to walk south, dragging their wooden boats over 1,500 kilometers of frozen terrain, hoping to reach a Hudson's Bay Company outpost on the Canadian mainland. None of them made it. For the next 120 years, the Royal Navy and the British scientific establishment refused to give credibility to the Inuit oral tradition. Inuit hunters had repeatedly told searchers exactly where the ships had sunk. The British dismissed it. They sent expensive expeditions in the wrong areas.
In 1981, a Canadian forensic anthropologist named Owen Beattie exhumed 3 frozen bodies from Beechey Island, where the expedition had wintered in 1846. The men were almost perfectly preserved by the permafrost.
Beattie tested their tissue. The lead concentration in their bones was 20 times normal. The expedition's 20,000 cans of food had been sealed with lead solder. The men had been slowly poisoned with every meal for 2 years before they ever became icebound. And then in 2014, after 169 years, Parks Canada's underwater archaeology team found the wreck of the HMS Erebus. It was sitting upright in 11 meters of water in a small bay south of King William Island, exactly where Inuit hunters had been saying it was for over a century. In 2016, 2 years later, an Inuit ranger named Sammy Kogvik told a Canadian government search team that he had once seen a wooden mast sticking out of the ice in Terror Bay. The team checked. 24 meters down, in perfect preservation, was the HMS Terror.
Both wrecks are protected sites under Canadian law. Inuit elders have been working with archaeologists since their discovery. The artifacts being recovered are stunning. China dishes still stacked, sailor's boots arranged at the foot of his bunk, a telescope, undamaged, lying where it fell, books on the captain's desk.
The men who walked south died in groups. Skeletons have been found across 100 miles of King William Island and the Adelaide Peninsula. Forensic analysis confirms the Inuit account. The cooking pots had human bones. They had eaten their dead. Of the 129 men who left England in 1845, none survived. The exact circumstances of each death are still unknown, but the Inuit oral tradition, dismissed by the British for over a century, was correct in every verifiable detail. The Northwest Passage, the prize Franklin died trying to find, is now navigable. Climate change has melted the polar ice. In 2007, a Russian icebreaker became the first ship to transit the route in winter. The route Franklin spent his life looking for is now a commercial shipping lane. Lady Jane Franklin spent the rest of her life and her fortune searching. She funded 15 separate expeditions. She died in 1875. She never knew what had happened to her husband. The Erebus and Terror would not be found until 139 years after her death. Subscribe to SALT Files for more ocean disasters and mysteries of the deep.